Welcome to the Brute Facts Podcast with your host and everybody's favorite Christian, Eddie Kroom. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell for future content.
Hey, welcome to Brute Facts, first ever AMA. So my guest had some things come up. It's one of those things, but I rescheduled on him and he returned the favor. So you get me together, all of us, for a fun, good time. So thank you everybody who's here. I have a couple of people there in the chat that are pretty regular that I thoroughly enjoy coming on. I have Normalizing Atheism. Check out his Facebook fan group that he has, or a discussion group. I'm not sure. A lot of people kind of fanboy over him, and others like to talk actual things. And then some people, well, it's debatable. But check him out. Also on YouTube, he's got his own thing. Titan Uranus, there's a whole bunch of them. They're everywhere. It seems like every show that I go to is Titan's show. So we're just in his world. Then we got Nat, the science. She's the equivalent of Bill Nye the Science Guy, except not as dorky. Yeah. Black female atheist, you rock. Spartan theology, check out his channel. He's got, believe it or not, they talk about theology, and it's pretty cool. Ethan over there. And let's see who else we have here. I'm just as dorky. No, you're not. No, you are not. So, any questions anyone has? It's nothing's off limits except for it has to be rated PG. That is one requirement. So, and before anybody asks, yes, I'm 5'7". I'm not this big, tall, massive, handsome pasta Mike. So, there's that. We also have sponsored by Crown Royal. Modern Moralists, welcome. And for the first question we have, are you a compatibilist regarding freedom and determinism? Well, I consider myself a libertarian free will guy. However, I am very sympathetic to the compatibilist position because it seems as if there are a lot of things that happen in sequences, causes and effects that kind of leads us to make the decisions that we make. I like Dr. Tim Stratton's take on it, which is it's a mere Molinism is what he writes about. And the mere Molinism, libertarian free will, is that we have the freedom to choose to do certain things, but doesn't require, it doesn't mean that we all have free will at all times. Some things we don't. Some stages of life we don't have free will. So he kind of holds to a mere libertarian free will. And that makes the most sense to me. It's a agent causation, idea. The difference between that and compatibilism is we could choose to do not A instead of A if we choose A. So we have Spooky Bear or spooky bed hair. I read that too fast. No, Spartan, I missed it. I was working at a facility that blocked cell signals, so I didn't get to hear it, but I do want to listen to it. I hope it was a good one. Titan, how can you make compatibilism coherent? Well, that's actually a really good question, because hard determinism seems to be a little absurd in my point of view, because basically we can't hold anybody responsible for anything, at least morally responsible, and that's how our entire justice system is, what underlies our justice system. So with compatibilism, I don't know how we get, which is why I hang out on the libertarian free will side of it, is because I don't know how we can have determinism and free will. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. So that's why I haven't jumped and made that leap into compatibilism myself. You could be predetermined to believe in free will. You can freely choose predeterminism, but I don't see how you can reconcile both at the same time. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Titan. It's hard for me to understand how we can have free will and not at the same time. Oh, Natalie, coming out with the curveballs, the high-speed pitches. Do you believe in intrinsic value over economic status? Does something need to hold value both in function and in intrinsic nature for it to be worthy of a higher price? I think intrinsic value over economic status. I would say intrinsic value is intrinsic value. If something is intrinsically valuable, I don't think that's a value that changes. I would say that there are other types of value that we have which economic status could affect. But when I think of intrinsic value, I'm thinking of a value that's inherent to the basic rights of individuals. I don't think any economic status or any economic system that would affect the basic rights of human beings is ever justifiable. But if we're talking just value as in somebody's level of happiness and living or pursuit of happiness, I think given the fact that everyone has some type of, I don't want to say disabilities, but some people have, better skills than others. Some people are born with natural skills and things of that nature that help them to excel. So I don't think that we can have like a truly flat playing field on economic status, just given the fact that we're all so different, and some people were blessed with a lot more than others. So I hope that answered. Yes, Titan, Rush does rock. They are a rocking band. It's called Compatibilism. Yes, thank you, Spartan. Do you think the Q gospel document is real? I personally don't. And from what I was reading, it seems to be a theory that is not very popular at all anymore. So I know there's a, mark and priority theory. There's a couple of them out there, but I think the Q document is not one that is really held to anymore. So I don't see any reason to hold to the Q gospel. Think of diamond market over antiques. Natalie, I think you're like on a whole nother level of intelligence on that topic because I am not tracking. So let me go back and reread your original question to make sure I understand the intrinsic value or economic status. You know, Natalie, I am going to appeal to not having an opinion on that because that is not an area that I've spent a lot of time really thinking about. That's actually a pretty good question. But you could probably answer it better than me, and I would have no leg to disagree on. So I bet you give me the answer. Those are the best tests. Okay, yes, we will discuss it later. Mark Goodacre destroyed Q. I've heard about Mark Goodacre's work on it, but I haven't read it myself. I just remember I was looking for an answer for something, and I was reading about the different hypotheses to the Gospels and how they were written. And I was actually surprised myself that the Q document hypothesis is not very popular at all anymore, and more people are going away from it. Ooh, great question. Normalizing atheism. What do you think some of the biggest hurdles are that people face when meeting other people that hold to different beliefs? That is a very complicated answer, but I'll sum it up best I can based on my experience. I think that in general, and I think most people would agree, that we fear what we don't understand. And we also tend to be very competitive in the West. And I think that there's a lot of pride in wanting to be right in one's position. And when someone feels that they're being challenged from an opposite position or a deferring position or some other type of position they don't understand or understand how somebody could hold it, I think they go into defensive mode way too soon and put that wall up. And like the conversation we were having earlier, that we don't want to be wrong, and we get caught in trying to appear smarter or try to one up the person we're talking with without stepping back and really evaluating what the person's saying. And I think one of the biggest problems that's facing conversation, especially in left versus right politics, theism versus atheism, or theism of different types versus each other, is no one practices the principle of charity. And the principle of charity is you interpret the person that you're talking with in the most positive way, in the most intellectual way possible. So if they come off as saying something that seems anti-intellectual, instead of assuming it's anti-intellectual, you try to grant them the benefit of the doubt that maybe you just don't understand it, instead of thinking that they're intellectually inferior to you. And I think that if most people would practice the principle of charity, then we could have a lot more fruitful conversations like you and I have. Ooh, modern moralist. What are some interesting books you are reading currently? See, that's when you know somebody is into philosophy. And the reason that you know that is because it wasn't stated as, what book are you reading? It was books. Because a lot of what I've known, a lot of philosophers or theologians too, we love to buy books. We think we need a book, and then we bring it home and we'll hit a couple chapters on it or something like that, and we lose interest and move on to another book. And then sometimes we'll come back to it, and there are probably about 4 or 5 that I've got right now. So this one is the one that I have been immersed with the most, Maimonides, the essential teachings on Jewish faith and ethics. Maimonides was probably the central, most important philosopher of Judaism, and most modern Jews, some way or another, garner their beliefs off of Maimonides. And that's if you want to understand Jewish thought and get a better understanding of Judaism for New Testament context, it is imperative to read a Maimonides. The other one is, since I love epistemology, epistemic justification by Swinburne. And he's a Bayesian epistemologist, as I am, and he tries to, well, I don't know about tries to, but he's, from what I'm gathering so far, is taking internalism and externalism and finding the best of both worlds for a coherent epistemic position. And this one that I've been wanting to get for a long time, and finally bit the bullet and bought it because it cost so much money, the Blackwell Companion to Natural Theology. And it is fantabulous. I'm going over the resurrection argument by Dr. Tim McGrew and Lydia McGrew, and it's a Bayesian analysis of the resurrection. He didn't like Swinburne's and had some critiques for Swinburne's Bayesian analysis, and so they did an entire chapter in the Blackwell Companion dedicated to the Bayesian analysis of the resurrection. And yeah, probability it's fun. It's real fun. Let's see. It's a philosophical viewpoint more than a straightforward answer. That's my kind of philosophical viewpoints. Spooky bed hair. Sweet. Thank you for subbing and being here. I am not an atheist. I am a Christian, but I consider myself a philosophical Christian. There's a lot of Christians who don't like my Christian because I don't put a lot of stock into heresies. I think that things that are considered heretical, for the most part, really aren't. I think that's a word that people like to throw around. There's actually very few dogmatic positions in theology that one would be considered heretical to hold some kind of view opposite to it. But the more that I learn about New Testament or Second Temple Judaism and the theology and the cultural context of the New Testament, the odder position I find myself in, based on a lot of the philosophies and theologies of the Orthodox Christian faith, because there seems to be a lot of, Hellenistic and the Greek philosophies that underlies a lot of the classical theists. A lot of their metaphysics underlies it. And the metaphysics of Judaism is very, very different. So my position is, I'm not exactly sure what Orthodox doctrines that I hold to dogmatically. I do hold to the essentials. One second. My computer came unplugged and it's going to die on me. Oh, such a rookie. Okay, and we're back. So, I'm not an atheist because I think the most honest answer would be I've always had some type of intuition that there was something other. The world seemed, too complex. There were too many things that didn't make sense without some higher intelligence. Love, beauty, expression, music, all these different things that can account for on naturalism, other than just saying it's an evolutionary byproduct. So I've always and it could be because of my raising, but there wasn't a time that I ever remember consciously believing a God exists. It was a belief that I had held as far back as I can remember having beliefs. However, I did go through a deconstruction and became agnostic for a short while. And going through, different world religions and the mainstream world religions, to me, I found Christianity the more plausible, the one that comported most with reality of human behavior. And I don't remember who it was. It may have been C.S. Lewis. Probably wasn't. It's in a nutshell, the quote is, "It's the absurdity of Christianity is why I believe." But I'm convinced, I'm an evidentialist. I'm convinced by the explanatory scope of the resurrection hypothesis. But other than that, I think I would still be at least a deist, because I am thoroughly convinced by the metaphysical arguments for God that there is a God that exists. Let's see. Who are you going to have? Oh, sweet Spartan. I'd definitely love to see that show. No. Oh, of course. It just jumped on me. Okay, there we go. Would you align yourself as a religious humanist, and whether you do or not, what is your opinion on this philosophical stance? I have often considered myself, or said that I am a humanist. If Christianity was falsified tomorrow, then I would still have the passion and the desire to help humans, the less off people. I think that there it is extremely noble to want to dedicate time to defending or supporting or helping other humans. So I would, as far as the actual deep philosophical concept of humanism, I'm not extremely familiar with it. But I think I've got admiration for anyone who would want to do anything to, better humanity or help reduce suffering or, share love to others. And so, yeah, if it's not a real deep, like, philosophy that I probably shouldn't be supporting, yeah, I'd say I'm a humanist. Oh, look at that. Fashionably late all the time. Fashionably late Nate. Say that 3 times fast. Swinburne is fire. Yes, I love Swinburne, other than he's an open theist. I'm not on the open theist train. I sympathize, but yeah, I do like how open theism solves the problem of evil and suffering, but I just can't make that leap. Not yet. You are welcome, Spooky. Thank you, Grumpy. I should have known you would know. So it's Tertullian who said, I believe because it's absurd. Yes. I don't think it's absurd, obviously. It just kind of flies in the face of so many world philosophies, or, the kind of me mentality that a lot of people have today. Pasta Mike, he's wearing a coat of different colors today. Is it fair to say we could see a concern regarding perception, and that explaining how perception could give us knowledge or justified belief about an external world, about things outside of ourselves? A concern regarding perception. It sounds like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that sounds like some kind of ultra skepticism. If we're concerned regarding perception, that explaining how perception could give us knowledge or justified belief about an external world, about things outside of ourselves, I would say that we would just have to take as, an axiom, just a presupposition that the external world exists and that we can have knowledge and we can have true beliefs in some sense. Justified true belief is a widely held justification, but I'm not it's still subject to Gettier problems. So I would caution against saying that it's a concern as far as being justified that the external world exists and that we can have some type of true belief, because that seems to be, going to global skepticism and like hardcore skepticism, which there are a lot of philosophers who write about, the downward spiral of skepticism, being too skeptic, because eventually it will lead to an ultra skepticism about everything. So, Swinburne, yes, Grumpy. Swinburne is the man. I am glad as an atheist. Do you agree? Who is the sexiest Christian? Dan Jacob, Jim Benton, or Josh Beasley? Yeah, I think Josh is closeted. And one day we'll find out. But I'm going to say no. None of them. I like Jim's U.S. history and economic intellect. He's a pretty smart cat there. I like Dan's radio voice that he has. It sounds fantastic on his podcast. And Josh. Yeah, Josh. He plays games. No, he likes guns too. So yeah, I like Josh. Yeah. Oh yeah, Jim can drink for sure. Yeah. I think we should take Jim and Oz and do a live show, kind of like a marathon, and see who can stay on the live show the longest without passing out. I think that'd be a good one. Oh, Josh Everett. I was late too. Yes, Josh, you were late. Thank you for being late, Josh. I mean, come on, it's family, bro. You can't come to a family member show late. You got to be like there waiting for the show to start. Stranger in a strange land. How would you address the skeptical notion that all subjective experience can be dismissed as anecdotal? Subjective experience is anecdotal. Well, the rabbit hole of subjectivism, I call it the rabbit hole of subjectivism, is because subjectivity is more of a psychological state. And if we're going to, for example, if we're going to talk about morals, and we take a subjective, some type of subjectivity of morals, well, that's just a localized relativism. It's, relative to the subject. And we have a subjective component to everything because we are the subject. So dismissing subjective experience as anecdotal, first, I think that's I don't even think that would even be, it seems to be a type of maybe category error, because if subjective experience is anecdotal, then any evidence that we bring is going to boil down to subjective experience. That means all evidence is anecdotal, and it could all be dismissed as anecdotal. I think that's kind of a hyper skepticism, and I would disagree wholeheartedly with the position that subjectivity is, or subjectiveness is anecdotal. Now, if it's in the context of, let's say, religious experience, I could say, yes, that would kind of be anecdotal. But if we look at the meta level and we look at how many people have religious experience, It doesn't seem to be just anecdotal. So, yeah, I would definitely disagree with Dillahunty on that, as I do with a lot of things from Dillahunty. Crash the party. That's a good question. How many blackberry bushes do you have on your property? I am down to about 4 or 5. I've been killing them bastards every which way I can, because they all grow where I don't want them to grow. I love blackberries, but they have thorns, and it sucks. And when you're trying to cut the yard and weed eat and all of that, they will reach out and touch you. Apologetic squared. Views on divine foreknowledge. I am a Molinist. I believe that God has natural knowledge, foreknowledge, and middle knowledge. I don't think that foreknowledge is how God created the world. I think he did it with middle knowledge. He knew what any free creature would freely choose to do in any situation. I think that Arminianism, to steal from the Calvinists, affects God's sovereignty, because it makes his act of creation dependent upon what human beings would do. And I think Calvinism, at least, 5-point Calvinism, makes God a monster and the author of sin. And it's, I don't know about incoherent. I would say a bit absurd, because if there is the divine elect and we have no part in who's saved and who isn't, and that's completely controlled by God, then that means that God could have created a world where everyone was elect, and he didn't. And I've never heard a fair response to that, or a worthy response from any Calvinist, other than somehow his wrath is for his glory. And that doesn't make any sense to me. Yes, Molinism for the win. Yes, Pasta, you do enjoy blackberries. Well, then I will send you a bush of them. Want a bush? They'll grow good there in Georgia. How would God know that? How would God know what, Pavel? It'd be a little more specific, if you don't mind. Oh, Pasta Mike says you're a handsome bar steward. Oh, you're not a Calvinist, Spartan. You're more of a orthodox theistic kind of Calvinism. It's not a 5-point tulip Calvinism. Universalism fixes everything. That's what they say. I hope it's true, but yeah, Pasta, how many onesies have you sold this week? And do you have any for short, stocky, muscular men? Asking for a friend. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Jeff. It's good to hear from you, buddy. It's been a long time. I'm streaming on Facebook too, so I have comments on there. Jeff and I go way back. And Josh was hindered by marijuana. That's a good reason to be hindered, I got to admit. And Zach, I'm guessing Reimer, always charitable as possible, as usual. He's very complimentary, makes my head bigger than what it is. if it's possible. Ooh, that's Apologetic Squared. Doing mic drops. Universalism allows you to just swap one U to another for a tulip. Stranger in a Strange Land. Do you think panpsychism, quantum string theory, and universal consciousness underlying reality is an avenue to a universal mind of God? So I have been toying with idealism for quite a while. Not Berkeley's idealism, because Berkeley has too many "therefore God." But if you're familiar with Castro, he is an ingenious idealist, and it's not necessarily a theistic idealism. It can be held by non-theistic. I am sympathetic to idealism. The cosmic consciousness. I think that if we were going to hold to some type of cosmic consciousness, it would have to be, to me, when we look at like classical theists, or classical theism or monotheism, and let's take, Aquinas, for example. And Aquinas, God was being itself. He was not a being amongst beings. He was a being himself, and we're participating in the reality that God is the sustainer of that reality. So it's almost like a cosmic consciousness. It's, just a metaphor. Don't press it too hard. But it's like when we dream, there's an entire world that exists, and it is solely sustained by our mind. When we stop dreaming, then that world ceases to exist. So in the mind of God, everything exists and is sustained by his mind. And if he stopped causing reality to be sustained, then reality would not exist. Next week I have Inspiring Philosophy, Michael Jones, coming on, and he is an idealist, and I think he makes a pretty good argument from the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics to idealism in a cosmic observer. I think that the quantum eraser experiment seems to lean towards some type of observer effect. However, I think a lot of people lose sight of one thing when we talk about the observer effect. Some people just say it's a measurement tool, measurement problem. We've already, and I think that the quantum eraser experiment, I forgot what the full name of it is. I think that put that to rest, but I think there's a huge aspect about it that a lot of people miss, and that is we are in the quantum field ourselves. So everything that we view in quantum mechanics at the quantum level is being observed and processed in that same quantum field. So it's, how can we remove ourselves from the quantum field? Yeah, thank you. Another rookie mistake. How can we remove ourselves from the quantum field when we're interpreting it in the quantum field. We can't do that. And to make it even more complicated is, we're looking at photons. Well, our eyes, photons is what illuminates, everything that exists around us. And then those photons are interpreted by the brain. And all of this is going on within the quantum field. So even if there was an observer effect, like a lot of people think, how do we rule out, an observer? Because we have to interpret the evidence. I mean, we have to look at what's there and interpret it. And how do we do that without being, in the quantum field ourselves? So it's really complicated. And I think, that's a part of it that kind of gets lost in the midst of it. But the competing hypothesis, the Everett interpretation, many worlds hypothesis is getting more popular. And I don't even remember the others, Bohmian mechanics, and they just don't seem plausible at all, especially when you get into the Everett interpretation. Then you talk about the realist and the anti-realist, it just gets even worse. So I think that the Copenhagen interpretation is the most applicable, or what we actually see. And I think a lot of determinists don't like the implications of it, the probabilistic nature, and that's why we have these other ones. But I wouldn't go as far as Michael Jones and say that it's evidence for idealism, not just yet. So I hold to a weak kind of I don't know, I may not even have the right words, panentheism or panpsychism. I think it's panentheism, where the world, where reality exists like Aquinas believed, we participate in that reality and it's sustained by that. So I think in essence there is a cosmic observer, which is God, but God is not dependent upon the physical universe. It's not a part of God. It's a physical manifestation from God. While God is in and around all of it, it's not something that he's dependent upon. And I think when we get into a cosmic, pantheism and all these different kind of cosmic gods, God is the universe being God, or some way being, a part of God, a necessary part of God, then I think we get you're subjected to the contingency argument and the issues there. How can a necessary being have contingent properties? It just doesn't seem to make sense to me. So I hope I didn't bloviate too much on that. Let's see. What is your credence in theism from 0 to 1? I would say theism simpliciter, just theism. My credence would probably be somewhere around 0.8 maybe. I don't hold to being Bayesian. I don't hold to certainty other than the fact that I exist. That's about the only certainty we can have. But I have a high level of confidence in theism because of the abductive case for the metaphysical arguments for God. Let's see. Pastas says, oh, nice. Wow. Okay. Can you explain the differences between factual knowledge, conceptual knowledge, procedural knowledge, and metacognitive knowledge? Really, man? I mean, I love epistemology, but I'm not a dictionary. I would say factual knowledge would be knowledge of things that are true. Conceptual knowledge would be knowledge of kind of like a natural knowledge, a knowledge of who you are and the experience that you have. Procedural knowledge, don't know what that is. Metacognitive knowledge, again, metacognitive. I'm not exactly sure what that is, Pasta. If you can give me an idea, well, just tell me what they are instead of asking me with these crazy hard questions. You're trying to stump me. Well, you did. Pasta's a teacher's pet. No, Pasta's going to make sure he gives me something I can't answer. Oh, thank you, stranger. I'm gonna have to check that out. Phil Talk, Danny, and Castro. That's a great combination there. Are rocks atheists? Well, Titan, in the sense that a lot of new atheists use atheist, I would have to say they qualify. No, maybe babies would be atheists. I don't even know if they could be atheists because to lack a belief seems to imply, because I know it's what a lot of atheists say is a lack of beliefs, seems to imply the ability to have a belief. So if it doesn't have the ability to have a belief, I would say it doesn't qualify as an atheist. Ooh, good one, Pasta. Can you define God? I would say God is the necessary, all powerful, personal foundation of reality. And that would be from the contingency, fine tuning, the first mover, the Aquinas pure act, the objective morality, which is what would make God a personal God, and Christianity, the truth of Christianity, make God a personal God. And so, yeah, that's how I define God. Could you elaborate how the intelligible world and minds that can discern the intelligibility is evidence for an intelligence behind the cosmos? Ooh, that is a good one, stranger. The intelligible world and minds that can discern for intelligence. Well, it would seem that if there is this property of consciousness, the whatever consciousness may be, the ability to perceive, given naturalism, I don't see how we can account for, the first person experience, what it is to be me. It would seem that if there is intelligence, a la consciousness, perception, knowledge, the ability to gain knowledge, to learn, evolve, and adapt mentally, it would seem to follow that it would have had to be something that was created by something intelligent. I have a hard time seeing how we can get consciousness from material, how we can get intelligence from benign objects. It doesn't make sense to me how we can, go from particles to, matter, material objects that are inanimate, to living beings, to develop this thing that we can't even really define. I mean, consciousness everybody defines it differently. So I don't know how in a purely materialistic universe, how we could get intelligence and that first person aspect that we have. Let's see. David Fairbairn, Facebook. What's your epistemology? Reformed foundationally. It is under construction, David. I am I'm a probabilist and evidentialist, but I think that Reformed epistemology, proper functionalism, has a place for justification in religious belief. So I am kind of in the middle of putting those together, which that is one thing that Swinburne seems to be doing in this epistemic justification book that I'm reading. So I'm excited to get through it and really hone it. Let's see. Christopher Fraley. What kind of beard oil do you use? Cremo. And I have to use the creamy balm, not the thick hard balm, but the creamy balm, because the oil, all of my buddies who hang out in here would make fun of me of my beard glittering and sheening and all of this, and I got glitter in my beard. For some reason it likes to shine a lot more on the camera than it actually does in person. So, but that cream also, it's got a soothing eucalyptus to it. By the way, nice shirt. Thanks, Pasta. I like this shirt. I picked it out myself. Yep. Trying to come in here with the G shirt on. Thanks, Pavel. Gave me a compliment. Spartan, you can't have knowledge that's not true. Yeah, that is a show in and of itself. Procedural knowledge refers to knowledge of how to perform a specific skill or task. Given the name, I thought it was something like that, but I couldn't quite articulate it at the time. But thank you for that, Pasta. I learned something new tonight from an atheist, nonetheless. Spartan theology, JTB must be true to reality at Spartan theology. Well, then what do you do with Getty or problem, stranger? Metacognitive knowledge, what individuals know about themselves and others as cognitive processors. Oh, okay. So it'd be knowledge about the metacognitive state of people. Makes sense. Oh, Pasta, thank you for that compliment. Oh, stranger, I got an agreement. Yep, magic word emergent seems to lack. Yeah, I wouldn't have an issue with consciousness being emergent. It wouldn't affect my theism one bit. I just, at this point, it seems to be another piece, whether small piece or however somebody sees it, in the abductive case for God. But it doesn't, my theism doesn't hinge on the nature of consciousness. I'm kind of not a substance dualist at the moment. I'm more of a property dualist, not really honed in on exactly where I stand there. That's a good point, Titan. I would agree. Absolutely. It's kind of like a get out of jail free card for a lot of people who really don't understand what emergent is. Crash the party. Can you please discuss cream more? I think since you were fashionably late, Nate, you didn't hear the part where I said that the questions must be PG. So, with that said, I will not elaborate on said topic. Let's see. Beard cream? Yeah. Thanks for clarifying, Nate. Oh, good question, David Fairbairn. His question is, what is your ontology? Nominalism, Platonism? I am not a nominalist. I think that universals do exist. Abstracts and universals do exist in some sense. So I guess it would be more Platonist, which is funny because, I've told people a lot of times that that's another one of my, positions that doesn't, theism doesn't hinge on it. Because if I were agnostic, I don't think I'd ever be like hard atheist. That's just a burden I don't want to carry. I would still be a Platonist. And I don't understand why there aren't moral realists that are naturalists, why there aren't more moral realists that are naturalists that aren't Platonists. Because Platonism pretty much solves a lot of the issues with naturalism and objective morality, moral realism. Yeah, Titan, that's why I was leaving that alone because, Nate's going to come crash the party and make it dirty if he can. This is a family broadcast. Pasta, new podcast coming soon. Beard cream. That was originally one of the main premises for the show, but it turns out a lot of people don't have beards. So it was a whole lot of talking about me if we were going to talk about beards, But thank you, BFA. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for the questions. Oh, yeah. Tried to highlight yours and Stranger threw one up at the same time and I highlighted his or hers. I'm not sure. I'm not going to assume. Thank you for saying that, Crash, because I wondered if that was Jenna, the whole time. I had all the different shows that we've been in the chat together. I thought it was Jenna, and never really asked. So now that I know for sure it's Jenna, well, you should go check out If Was podcast or, well, YouTube show. It's on YouTube. They usually have panel discussions, and it is fantastic. Yes, I know. Yes, I didn't. You know, I try not to assume things, Jenna. I thought it was, but I wasn't sure. And I actually meant to ask a couple times, but since I'm ADHD, I get sidetracked easily. Yes, I told on myself. I'm sorry. Titan, you think consciousness is an emergent property of the brain? Yeah. I don't know. I still don't know how material gives rise to immaterial. It doesn't seem to make sense. Oh, another good one, David. What is your opinion on natural law theory? So, I like natural law to an extent. I don't like the implications that things that are aimed or, have a teleos, say, design, that anytime that design is violated, that it's immoral. The, doing reductio on it, it seems to make a lot of things immoral that are trivial things. As far as the real nuances on natural law theory, I haven't done too much study on it. I understand the concept of it, that there is, things have a directedness. And when the directedness is abused or consciously violates that directedness, then it's considered a immoral act. So I'm still kind of, I like the general idea, maybe in a meta sense, but when we, start to reduce it down to, more of a micro level, it's it just seems to have weird implications to me. Question for Eddie. You get injured a lot. Any advice on a pulled shoulder or back muscle? Oh, thanks for that, Nate. Yeah, so I have lately. I did the 4th of July dunk that was stupid and landed on wet grass, which means my feet had nothing solid to land on, and proceeded to feel the effects of gravity. And then, as my elbow hit the ground, in the position I was in, I got to feel the effects of force and what happens when you transfer energy through a small point to small bones. So, yeah, pulled muscle. Yes. First of all, if I don't know if it's pulled, a lot of people call injured muscles pulled, but a pulled muscle, I think, is technically a torn muscle. I remember my doctor telling me that. But ice, heat, rest. That's or what is it? Rice, rest, ice, compress, elevate. Yeah, that's That's all I can tell you. It hurts. I don't know anything that's going to work other than a hot bath, but you can't stay in there all night either. Yes, pasta Mike, definitely. Yes, so Jenna's actually has a stream here at 9:30 p.m. If you guys want to check it out, they have a pretty good panel over there, and Pasta Mike was nice enough to put the link there. You would have to copy and paste it because the links don't work like that here. Oh, no. Well, you got a nice little conversation going on there, buddy. Let's see. Stranger to Titan. Is everything blind chance? Titan. The physical laws are just observations of the behavior of matter and energy. Chemistry from physics. I'm not sure. I understand. Life is chemistry and biochemistry. Yeah, the randomness argument. And you called me a dum-dum? Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, Pasta. It didn't come up highlighted on my end. I'm still a noob, bruh. You gotta grade me on a curve. Dumb. Man, he went hard. He went to the 11th grade. Well, 11-year-old. So here you go, dum. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt them. Me, whatever. So, any last questions? I'm gonna wrap this up before Jenna's show starts, so she doesn't steal all of my audience. There have been fantastic questions, a lot of questions, and I am extremely grateful at the last minute that so many people would pop in here and ask all these questions. It has been a bit challenging. Learned a few things. Got to say I didn't know a couple times. Got to see there's a pretty fired up side chat going on. Somebody get the popcorn. Too bad we can't put memes in there. It'd be nice if we could put a meme in there. You know, the same guy with popcorn every single time. It breaks out into a dumpster fire in the chat. Not that it's a dumpster fire, but Titan, who is your favorite side chat mod? Well, man, put me on the spot like that. That is, I'm going to have to say it's a tie with you and Grumpy. Oh, wait. I don't know if is Grumpy a mod here? I don't think Grumpy's a mod. If he's not a mod, since you said mod, I'm going to say you, Titan. You the man. Inspiring Christianity. Thank you for popping in. What are your thoughts on Pascal's wager? So originally, I was not... I didn't like Pascal's wager. But I think given the work that... I'm drawing a blank. Liz Jackson, Dr. Liz Jackson. What she's done on Pascal's wager has made me seriously reconsider it. I think that a lot of people don't really understand Pascal's wager. A lot of people assume that, well, I don't know if Pascal was a fideist in the sense that a lot of people are fideists today, but sure, he held to some type of fideism. But my understanding is all things equal, then one should err on the side of taking Pascal's wager. So if one is atheist or agnostic and they don't put a lot of credence into theism, I wouldn't expect them to take Pascal's wager, and I wouldn't expect it to be convincing. However, if one is leaning towards theism or unsure about it, I think that that's when Pascal's wager applies. I think it's only something that applies to those who are considering theism. I think it's a very effective, given the fact that I also think that pragmatic theism or pragmatic Christianity is a justified reason for holding to theism or Christianity. Kind of like a Jordan Peterson, that one lives as though there is a God, or follows Christianity because of the values that one sees in it, even though they're not truly a believer. So I think it has, it's a very good argument, or something that should be compelling for, a theistic pragmatist or people that are leaning towards it. 5 favorite YouTube channels. Man, oh man. Well, I'm probably going to leave some people out, and some people are going to be unhappy with me, but gotta be honest. Capturing Christianity. Man, there's so many. I'm like subscribed to like 30 channels. Tang with Oz, who used to be known as Tart. Normalizing Atheism with Pasta. Inspiring Philosophy. Man, Spartan Theology. There's so many there. It's hard for me to narrow it down to 5. I literally watch shows from about 15 of them in, 2 days. I'm all over the place with it. Let's see. Yes, very good point, stranger. It is probability for sure, which is why I think Dr. Liz Jackson likes it and spends so much time on it, because she talks about credence a lot, and she's internalist, I believe. I don't know. I don't think she's like really answered it clearly. Pascal phrased it wrong. It's a will with atheism on one half. Titan, I don't. When are you going to have Dan from the Dear Christians podcast on your show? Right now, Dan, you're on the show. There you go. Everybody check out Dan at Dear Christians podcast. They got a blog too. I wrote an article for them. They got some great articles over there. I think at least all major platforms, they have their shows on. Does pretty good stuff over there. He addresses controversial issues within Christianity. He exposes a lot of the problems with Christianity today. And that's why Dan and I hit it off so well. And I miss Pasta's comment. Headmaster Titan's office for our spanking. Sure. Let's see. Where did he go? Oh, another one from Dear Christians Podcast. Where do you stand on the faith of the founding fathers of the U.S. and the claim that the U.S. was founded as a Christian nation? I disagree with that claim. I think that it was founded on Judeo-Christian values, and a lot of them were Christians, but a lot of them were anti-religious or just apathetic to organized religion. Deists, that's the time that deism really got fired up, and a lot of them was on that deistic train. I think that they wanted a nation free of oppression. I wouldn't say that it was necessarily designed as a secular nation, but I think they intentionally, did their philosophy was to limit the government's involvement in religion as much as possible, but I don't think it was to eradicate religion from the government. I mean, look at the Supreme Courts and how many religious figures are there, because the Constitution says that they can't establish a religion. Doesn't say they can't recognize religions. So I think a lot of them, though they were Christians and deists, and as Jim Benton actually said, a few of them were probably atheists because they were anti-religious, or at least wrote very angrily about religion. I don't think that they founded it necessarily as a Christian nation. Spartan Theology Marathon Stream. Well, I don't want to take away from Jenna's, but if questions are still coming in. What did I miss? Why is Dan laughing at me? Yeah, stranger. I agree. I think the understanding of church and state is very misunderstood. It was to keep the state out of the church, not necessarily religion out of the government. At least that's my understanding and interpretation. Oh, David Fairbairn, what's your choice for worst physicalist model? Any kind of materialistic reductionism, any reductionist view, any I think that materialism itself is absurd and untenable. It just, matter of fact, I am working on an argument now that's I don't know if I'm going to try to do a modal argument yet, but I might. But it has to do with naturalism and more materialism itself versus religious experience, as far as near-death experiences, personal religious experiences, miracle healings, all these claims, how many, the vast nature of the claims. And for materialism to be true, then every single one of the claims have to have a naturalistic cause. And that's an issue. Because if just one of them doesn't have a naturalistic explanation or naturalistic cause, then materialism is false. Not only that, supernatural is possible, metaphysically possible. So if it's possible, then it's a better explanation for religious experience And if it's a better explanation for religious experience, then naturalism can account for any of them. I think it shows that materialism is false. Go ahead, Pasta. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for stomping me. Trying to make me look bad. Is idealism a reductionist view? No. When I was talking about reductionism, I was talking about a naturalist or materialism. For some reason it doesn't sound right. Where everything reduces to physical particles, or some type of physicalism. Yes, stranger, that is true. However, a lot of them who consider themselves methodological naturalism or naturalists and say that they're not metaphysical naturalists, when you flesh out their view, it turns out that a lot of them are metaphysical naturalists. But I don't think there's an issue with being a naturalist in kind of a soft sense, allowing, of course, because it's metaphysically possible, and you have to say supernatural is possible, God's possible, but allowing for the possibility of supernatural explanations, I think is a far more intellectually honest position to hold. Ooh, stupid microphone. So, well, we're in an hour and a half, and I think that's going to about do it. Thank you, everyone, so much for all the questions, for hanging out with me. Had a great crowd. I was a bit surprised and humbled, especially with it being last minute. And given the amount of people that showed up and the amount of questions, we're definitely going to have to do this again. And maybe have a guest or two on or something. A couple of people had messaged me at the last minute asking me if I'm sorry. Yeah, I gotta highlight that one. I cannot stand the supernatural natural distinction. I don't understand how somebody can really even define supernatural. It doesn't. I do not like the word. I do not like the distinction. I think that it has such a negative connotation to it that, and I mean, it's really, how do you define it? What is supernatural? I don't, it seems to imply a violation of the natural, or something that doesn't exist in the natural world. It's definitely a loaded word that I can't stand to use. But thank you, everyone. I am so humble. Make sure you hit the thumbs up on the video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you hadn't. Like I said, I do have Michael Jones with Inspiring Philosophy coming on next week. And hopefully I can get with Dr. Robert Price and work that out. Not sure exactly what had happened, but he's a busy man and he's been on a lot of shows and he does a lot of things. So he's entitled to it. But anyway, don't forget, I have, this is on all the major podcast platforms. So if you didn't get to hear the whole show and all the questions, you can download it there. And YouTube, and I have my own website, so go check out brutefacts.com. It's pretty cool. Designed it myself. Probably needs a little bit more work, but it's all good. Once again, thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. Stay safe.